What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Here we are with another reaction video, and in this one we have American culture shocks in Germany with the great Feely from Germany. I'm so excited to dive into this. Before we do, however, if you would like to, or if you happen to enjoy this video, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a like, and let's dive right in.
They're out, they're all walking, they're on the bikes.
Every car I noticed was like a tiny hatchback.
First of all, how good the food was.
Very few disposable anything.
So many environments have little places for children to play. Much more of a welcoming environment.
We've gone out a lot. We've done restaurants. We've been going to breweries and whatnot.
Do as the locals do.
Way cleaner, smell better.
I found that to be not entirely the case.
The layers upon layers, it will get hot. They're all of a sudden down to like a t-shirt.
Stay out of the bike lanes.
Absolutely. That's the number one rule.
Stay out of the bike lanes.
We're currently on our way from Heidelberg, Germany to Berlin. And when I say we, I mean 22 Americans who are traveling with Ben and me on our 2024 Germany road trip. For some
That's so freaking dope. That's so freaking awesome.
of them, it's their very first time here in Germany, or even in Europe in general. And we've now been on the road for a little over a week. So I want to know which culture shocks or cultural differences they've noticed here in Germany over the last 9 days. So let's ask.
What I thought was huge is just how active the Germans are. They're out, they're all walking, they're on the bikes all the time.
Yep.
Their crosswalks are enormous compared to ours because so many people are out and about.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That's so awesome.
Awesome. Was it your first time in Germany?
Yes.
First time. Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Won't be the last.
Nice.
Well, I think the thing that really stands out to me was, and we've gone out a lot. We've done restaurants. We've been going to breweries and whatnot. I mean, when in Germany, why
Yeah.
not?
As the locals do.
Is the ability to have conversations with people here in Germany. In the United States, if you go out, you're usually surrounded by loud music and loud TVs.
True,
But in Germany,
true.
it's all about conversation and being able to communicate with people, whether it's a smaller group, whether it's a larger group. So that really stood out to me in the best possible way because we've been in a nice group here and we've been able to bounce around from person to person, have good conversations. So yeah, I think Germany definitely lends itself to experiencing social life in a way where you can really connect with people because you can have conversations with them.
A couple of things actually stood out to
I
me.
think I just really liked his response in terms of that is nice, and he's completely spot on when he talks about in America when you're going out and about to different places, you can't really have conversations with people because of very loud music, because of very loud TVs, and so he's saying it's more of a social culture there. I guess you more have those conversations. You're able to bounce and talk to all these different people, and I think that's really, really cool, and that's really, really different than what we have here. And then she talks about how active the Germans are. Yeah, we need some of that activity over here in the U.S. Stop this obesity.
Me, first is how many people ride bikes just as a regular mode of transport. Everyone does it, and it's really cool to see the fact that there are actual bike paths in the city that are intentional, that regular people who walk cannot walk in.
Yeah.
It's in, for that purpose is really cool. Makes it a lot easier. And the second thing is, you hear about German customer service not being as good as American customer service. I found that to be not entirely the case. Like everyone I talked to was supremely patient.
Nice.
When I was asking for the check or anything else, trying to struggle through German, they were all really nice and patient with me, and they were accommodating if I had a request. I have to say it was really nice.
Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. And
That's
the thing
incredible.
about people not being able to walk in the bike lanes, did you have the experience that like you got yelled at or?
I had to move out of the way a couple times pretty quickly. I didn't get hit, thank goodness, but I did have to take evasive action.
Yeah, that happens. One thing that always travels with me, no matter where I go, is PIA, private internet access. I turn it on
I'm
when
gonna skip this sponsorship. I absolutely love this though. And I love he talked about the customer service because, yeah, I feel like that does get talked about in multiple videos that I reacted to, is that Germany's customer service, I guess, isn't as good as the USA's because the US is working for a tip, right? And so, of course, you're going to get better customer service when you're working for a tip. But he's saying that I didn't find that to be the case. Everyone that he talked to, when he needed something, when he needed a check or anything, they were very patient with him. They were very accommodating. And so, I mean, that's truly awesome to hear he had that experience. And I guess these bike lanes, stay out the bike lanes. These German bikers ain't playing.
Check it out down below, and thank you so much to PIA for sponsoring this video. Nancy, what's something that stood out to you?
So there are many things, but two of them mostly was I did a lot of observing of children while I was here, and really appreciated the way so many environments, like restaurants and stuff, have little places for children to play and to color.
Really?
And it's kind of like much more of a welcoming environment. Even in the United States, we can bring our children to those environments, but there isn't like this welcoming, like we want children to be here.
Yeah.
I work at a college and I teach early childhood classes, and I talk a lot about how we are, I say risk averse. Like we are so worried about our kids getting scrapes on their knees and on their elbows. And the attitude in Germany and many other European countries is that if you give children the risks, they will learn how to take those risks and be safe. So it's just a very different way of either overprotecting them so they don't get hurt, or allowing them to learn how to keep themselves safe. And I like that side better.
I love that.
agree.
I love that.
You filmed the playgrounds here in Germany,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Well, Mark did. My husband did, but yes.
How are those different from American playgrounds?
Well, for one, there's a lot of wood on the playgrounds. And of course, in America, we're worried about kids getting splinters. So we take the wood off the playground. But they're, the structures are taller and higher. There are rope type things that kids can walk in that they could slip their feet through and maybe get hurt. But I think they're all the appropriate challenges that, quite honestly, when I was young, I had by climbing in trees and doing all of those things out in the real world. The other one that I really noticed is that when it comes to disabilities, I noticed how difficult it is to get around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like even for myself, finding bathrooms that if I was in a wheelchair, it would be really difficult.
That's right. That
Really
has a lot to
difficult.
do with how historical Europe is, of course, and how buildings are built more up high with stairs and everything.
Right.
Absolutely.
I actually, when I'm in the United States, when I went to Washington, D.C., noticed how difficult it is. I mean, they've made a lot of accommodations there, but it takes a lot when the buildings are older.
There's a lot of catching up to do for sure.
Yeah.
I think the quality.
I really like what she said about the children, because I really do agree with that statement. As in, here we are a very risk-averse nation, as in overprotective, getting scared of your child, right? Getting scrapes, getting hurt. So you try to overprotect them and almost put them in a bubble as much as possible. Tell them what they can and can't do. Where it seems like in Germany, they're allowing the children to figure it out themselves, right? Maybe you do something wrong, you hurt yourself, you get back up, don't do that. You learn how to take risks, but also be safe. But you learn that for yourself, which I think is very huge. And then the playground difference, that's very interesting. The fact that it's mostly wood, or I don't know if it's mostly wood, but they have wood there. Here, yes, you're worried about the splinters, so mostly stay away from wood here in the U.S. playgrounds. But I just think that's really cool. It seems like the German children have a little bit more freedom to learn about risk and learn how to be safe, and to where they're not overprotective of hey, don't do that, don't jump there, don't. And then the facts that more places are so welcoming to kids, like they got a play area, they got areas for kids. That's really cool. Disabilities, I didn't even think about that. I honestly had not thought about the fact that a lot of countries in Europe are older than the U.S., so they were built before, and so they are very historic, and I think that's fascinating. But at the same time, it would be harder to make accommodations for disabilities because of this. I had not thought about that one bit, so that's a truly interesting point, and I'm sure Germany will continue to work forward in making these accommodations, but that was just very interesting.
It takes a lot when the buildings are older.
There's a lot of catching up to do for sure.
Yeah.
I think the quality of the workmanship and the facilities and the construction materials really makes a great impression on me. Particularly the windows the doors, the plumbing fixtures, they're all outstanding. They're really, really well built, and they operate perfectly. I think in the United States we try to cut some corners on some of those materials, but not in Germany. It's just outstanding, and I really appreciate the craftsmanship.
I've always noticed the doors for sure, but I never really paid attention to the fixtures, like that there's a difference in quality there.
Yeah, we've seen similar ones in the Netherlands areas and so forth, but it's just very impressive to see the craftsmanship and the workmanship and the attention to detail in the different building materials. Yeah. And likewise, all of the buildings and so forth, just very, very solid, very good.
First of all, how good the food was. In America, maybe Germany has a poor reputation for food, but it was actually delicious everywhere we went. It was very tasty. The traditional German food was excellent, and then also just non-traditional food like Italian and some of the ramen we had was really good. Yeah. So everything that we ate was fantastic. One thing that did surprise me was in America, we also hear how much deference is paid to World War II and things that took place, and how much education is provided to the German citizens about everything that took place. So it surprised me when we were at the Nuremberg Trials Museum and a group of German teenagers came in and really were kind of loud and kind of noisy in sort of a sacred space. But I think that's also just kids can be kids, teens can be teens. That's sort of universal throughout the world. So and I think after the guard reminded them to be quiet, they were very respectful after that.
That's interesting. I remember the first time that we went to a concentration camp in 9th grade. Everyone's 15, 14 years old, right? And I think it's also almost like a coping mechanism a little bit, because everyone knows it's like really, really heavy. But also you're on a school trip. Everyone's excited that they don't have to be in the classroom that day. So it's kind of like a balance act between the two. But I remember we were there in 9th grade and we were kind of loud too, but that doesn't mean that it didn't affect us.
Right.
I think everyone kind of tried to play it cool a little bit too.
Sure.
I noticed how prepared Germans seem to be. Like, the weather obviously changes here so much, but the layers upon layers, it will get hot. They're all of a sudden down to like a t-shirt. It starts pouring. They have their raincoat ready. So it's just like everything is just a little bit more prepared than I think we think about in the States.
I absolutely agree about that, because whenever I go out with Ben, I'll be like, yeah, don't you want to bring something to wear later? It's going to get cold. We're going to take the bike. And he's like, no, I'll be fine. I can wear the same outfit all day long, and I'll bring like a sweater and a raincoat and an umbrella and sunglasses and sunscreen, because you never know what the weather is going to do. And we actually have a word for that too. In German, we call it Zwiebellook, onion look, because you dress up like an onion with lots of layers.
Lots of layers. There you go.
But to add to that, when we were in Heidelberg last night, it started to rain after our dinner. So I threw my poncho on. And as we walked back to the hotel, Shayna was behind me and she was noticing quite a few people laughing at me, chuckling a few points. So maybe the ponchos are looked as a little,
maybe not such a stylish
thing
to
not so
wear.
stylish. And it definitely was not stylish.
A lot of Germans have very expensive functional wear. The good raincoats.
Yes.
So you're saying they don't wear a garbage bag when they're walking.
Exactly.
A couple of things I noticed at first.
I found their comments to be interesting, but it's really cool. The guy who gave such high regard to the craftsmanship of Germany, whether it be doors, whether it be fixtures, plumbing, all of that. Where he said in the U.S. sometimes we tend to cut corners in some of these areas. In Germany, that doesn't happen. There's very close attention to detail with everything that they do. That's amazing. And then you got your guy. The food. I feel like the food does get a bad rep when I'm like watching these videos and reacting and talking about Germany and they're showing pictures. I'm like, I'm even me sometimes I'm like, I'd like to try that, but then there's some foods like, I don't know about that. He said everything that they ate was like really good, the traditional as well as non-traditional foods. They're Italian, ramen, different things, and so that's very interesting to hear. That makes me want to try German food more. I completely agree with them about the historical sites, World War II, concentration camps and everything. As a kid, yes, or as a teenager, I feel like, yes, you probably do understand everything. But at the same time, like she said, you are on a trip. You are, right, you're out of school. You're excited to be out of school. And while you do recognize the importance of what took place, at the same time, she said it was kind of a coping mechanism. I would say teens can be teens, right? And so it's like you do understand it, but sometimes you don't fully like really just get it unless you were there, or unless you had maybe a family member who was a part of it. But it could be a coping mechanism as well. But at the same time, you don't want to just go there and I guess like just be depressed or defeated, have a defeated feeling when going to these places, especially as a teen. And then like just being ready for anything. Germany, that doesn't surprise me. Preparedness, being ready for any type of weather, being ready for anything. And that's Germany.
First, honestly, being tourists as we are, we went to a lot of tourist destinations. But I was actually surprised to see that a lot of the prices for souvenirs or just things that you need in day-to-day life, umbrellas, as we need it many times on this trip.
Typical German weather.
But the prices were actually very reasonable. Even where, normally as an American, those tourist destinations, I would expect them to be highly elevated, just inflated pricings. But I was very surprised to see that everything was very affordably priced. And then when we went to the grocery store this morning, again, I was expecting to pay $25, and what I bought was about $9.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That was really cool.
I agree. Well, actually, on that topic, Ben, behind the camera, gets a snow globe everywhere he goes. And I think the most expensive snow globe was when we went to Asheville in the US at Biltmore. And your snow globe was what, like $50? $50. How much do you pay here in Germany? $9 or €9 in this case. Yeah. It's crazy, right?
And this may be a European thing. I'm not sure or not. We were in Nuremberg. We were walking down the street one day, and I was looking at all the different cars. They have a lot of different models here that we don't have in the United States. But every car I noticed was like a tiny hatchback, which we don't have many of. I'm from the South, Alabama, and what you're going to see there are large pickup trucks, SUVs, large Suburbans, large cars. But everything I saw, I was like hatchback, and I thought that was very interesting.
Very true. I think that is a European thing.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, and again, a lot of models I'm not used to. And then the last thing I really noticed, honestly, was it was a little difficult to find drip coffee. Or filtered coffee. Filtered coffee. I would go in and be like, hey, do you just have black coffee? And they were like, no, do you know a cappuccino? Or I was like, it's been great. Wonderful experience. Learned a lot. And then just like Joshua said, stay out of the bike lanes.
Right, absolutely. That's the number one rule.
What stood out to me the most was
stay out of the bike lanes. It's really cool though. The pricing difference. That it sounds very affordable to be able to vacation in Germany, travel there, get to explore the sites, souvenirs, and everything. It sounds like it's very affordable, and that's pretty awesome. $50 for a snow globe, that would be the U.S. That definitely would be the U.S. That's ridiculous. But yeah, the pricing differences are completely understandable. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't know too much about coffee. And again, stay out of the bike lanes.
the quality of the food. It was fresh food wherever you went. It didn't matter if you were in a restaurant or if you were at the local store that would be equivalent to CVS. There was fresh food, and everything was available. Cheeses, meats, and fruits and vegetables, and the quality was fantastic.
And quality beer, too.
Yeah.
I just thought that the taste and how pure and clean it was, the beer was really good.
Do you have a favorite beer?
Of all the beers. So we went to Rothenburg and knew some friends of friends there. And so they had Turmhaus, which I guess was just a little tiny thing in Rothenburg that was my favorite.
And the transportation, being able to get around by train and being able to travel and go here and there, and the amount of people that were biking and just the conversation in the streets. You'd see people conversing casually and just having a great time. So yeah, it was a great experience.
I don't think Cincinnati has a lot of that transportation just because of the amount of hills. Makes it really hard for people to bike and get around and that kind of stuff. But you know how many times we had to stop loading the bus today because all of the people riding the bikes going by.
Absolutely.
The fact that they don't have very few disposable anything, like no disposable forks and disposable, plates and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, at one time growing up, they had all bottles had deposits on them, and they've gone back to that. Like Michigan still does that, but
since it's just easier for people to just throw stuff away. So the use and not throwing everything away was really
that
was a big difference.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
there certainly wasn't much.
I feel like to go back to the other guy's point, I kind of missed out on was about the cars. And then I think the U.S. was just built for cars. I think the roads are wider, so you can have the pickup trucks, big Suburbans and everything. Where Europe, I feel like, has much greater public transportation, and Europe's been around for, it seems, much longer. So the roads are a little bit more narrow, it seems. So you probably can have a big car, but it would seem like more of an inconvenience to have one in Europe than in the U.S., where it's like hatchback, smaller cars to get around. I think that's really cool. And then, again, fresh food, no matter what, cheese, meats, fruits, vegetables, everything so fresh, such good beer, so clean. I think that's really cool. I'd love to try some German beer, but I'm not a big beer drinker. I'm more light beer. And so I don't like IPAs and stuff like that. Stronger beer. Just keep me on the light end. But, yeah, I feel like that's fascinating. And then I guess these bike lanes ain't playing no games. These bike lanes, it's real out here. They saying move, get out the way. But then again, how you can get everywhere on train is just amazing. That's awesome about Germany, but also Europe, just public transportation.
Culture shock, because I was born here and I grew up here. So
right. I feel like the hat gives it away too.
So I got to see the small town where I grew up before we met, and then by coincidence we drove through the town where I was born on the way to Heidelberg. But the two things that struck me the most, one of them pretty trivial. In Bavaria and somewhat in Baden-Württemberg, I noticed that the crops were corn. There were a lot of corn crops.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing when I was growing up.
Interesting.
And the second thing, even though I knew it abstractly before I came here, but seeing how active outdoors Germans in particular, but Europeans in general are. That really struck me is when the weather was nice, and especially on a weekend, everybody was out on a bicycle, they're hiking, they're riding their bikes.
Okay, Scott, I know that you were on my last German trip too, so it's not your first time in this country, but what's something that stood out to you, whether it was last time or this time here in Germany?
I like the trams and the trains in the cities. You can get around very easily, very inexpensively. And I like the old architecture and the old cities. We just don't have anything like that in the U.S.
Once I recovered from the jet lag.
I think that's really cool. The guy who's actually been there, he's came back there and he's realized differences in the crops and everything. And then again, just recognizing how active Germans are, but Europeans in general, how active they are, I guess, compared to the U.S. is cool. And then we got another comment on public transportation.
Just walking down the street, how there's just a lot more people out walking. I noticed there was a lot more like fruit stands and that sort of thing out and about.
Of course, it's summertime
Way
right now.
cleaner.
Too. Oh yeah.
Smelled better. Yeah, I think that was probably the first things initially that I noticed.
Even though I'm a rule follower and I kind of like how people here follow rules, sometimes they do so to a ridiculous degree. Like standing at a red light until it turns green, which could be a while.
Yeah.
Even if no cars are coming for a long, long ways. And they get angry at you if you break the rules, and they really want you to know that they're angry about it.
Did you have that experience?
Yes, someone honked at me when I accidentally crossed when the light for bicycles had turned red.
Wow.
Just like a second before, and he was like, no, you will follow the rules.
Oh my God.
But the first time I was here, I think the biggest surprise to me is that people can carry beers around everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh, it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. Everyone has a beer in their hand and they're getting on the train and they're hanging out. And the evenings seem more like a social time than just to get home.
So. True. I feel like we also saw that a lot on this trip because it's July. Summer break is about to start for Bayern and Baden-Württemberg, and a lot of the days were very nice weather. I mean, we had a little bit of rain too, but we saw a lot of nice evenings in like Nuremberg or in Munich also, where people were just hanging out at the public squares with a beer or, at the side of the river and just enjoying themselves.
Yes. So being outside seems to be more of a priority.
Yeah. I know this wasn't your first time in Germany.
I think that's really cool. it seems like Germans are definitely getting out and about, and we all know they don't play about them rules. We've seen that in many videos. They don't play. You gonna follow them rules, or they gonna get on your case. Point blank. Period. Follow the rules. But right, really nice. Just out and about, beers in hand, hanging out, having a good time, not in a rush to get home, but chilling, being social. That I find that to be really cool. Cause yeah, I'm in a rush to get home, but then again, we not allowed to drink in public. So y'all can have a little bit more fun.
Been all around.
Yes, no, this is our third time in Germany. So I was thinking about what is a new culture shock to me here. And one small one was burnt das Brot.
Yeah. We talked about him quite a lot.
Yeah. The other one to me was, we talked about a little bit at like children's playgrounds, that measured risk, that kind of slight danger that's built into them and everything, and that I found that kind of fascinating.
And do you remember what your first culture shocks were when you came to Germany or to Europe for the first time?
This is really stereotypical, but I would say it was the service.
Okay,
yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
Even how you have to twist their arm to even bring you the bill.
Yeah. You're like, please let me pay. Right. Please come back.
We have much to do still.
Yeah. Also, Devin has a really cool Instagram page. He makes custom bikes. So you can check him out on Instagram at Alchemist Custom Bicycles. I'm going to put it right here. Have you ever been to Germany?
That's so
if so,
cool.
what was the thing that stood out to you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And the same question also goes out to people that have visited the US before. What was the cultural difference that you noticed when you were there? I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with us here on our bus on the way to Berlin. We're almost there now, I think 2 more hours, and we're all very excited for our last stop of the tour. Thank you to everyone in the group that was willing to share their experiences with me. There were also a few people who didn't want to be on camera, but that's totally fine. They're still very much loved. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I hope I'll see you next time. Cheers!
That's so freaking dope. I'd love to go on a tour to Germany, but I'd love to travel to so many different places at this point. I can't pick which I would want to go to first, but in the future, I hopefully get to the point where I can get to travel to all of these places, because it would just be absolutely awesome. But this was a really fun video to get to react to hear all these American culture shocks in visiting Germany. And it seems like for the most part, nothing but good things about Germany. I guess guy at the end had a different experience than the other guy with the customer service in Germany. Just two different experiences. Sometimes that happens. So, like she said, I'd love to know any culture shocks maybe any Americans visiting Germany have had that watch this channel, or vice versa. Drop them in the comment section. Talk to me. I'd be very interested and fascinated. But that's all we have. If you guys enjoyed that, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see you guys next time.